My name's Neil Davis from Secure Ground Transportation in London, and I'm joined by...
Jacquie Davis, I'm the Operations Director for Optimal Risk in London.
So between us, we've got a wealth of experience. So Jacquie, what's the difference operating in London or the UK in the EP world compared to America?
It's very different. Of course, first of all, we're not armed, we're not allowed to carry firearms, as most of our police can't carry firearms either. So we learn a lot of psychology of how to talk our way out of situations rather than pull a gun and do it that way. So it is very different. But we don't have the gun crime, of course, in the UK or Europe, really, that they have over here.
And what about, do you have to be licensed in the UK?
Yes, so you have to be licensed by the Security Industry Authority, which is a Home Office department, a government department. You've got to do, I think it's 140 hours training now, along with a 5-day first person on scene or threat course, which is all your first aid. So it's quite long. You can't have a criminal record. And so once you've done all those courses, then you can apply for your license, and it's up to the licensing authority whether it's granted or not.
Okay, so does the UK stand alone and operate differently to, say, Europe, France, Italy, Germany?
No, it's basically the same in several countries. So in France, you've got to be licensed, you've got to have CNAPs, you've got to work for a licensed company in France, Germany, Switzerland. They all have licensing rules and regulations, and again, you can only be armed in those countries if you're licensed in those countries and you're a citizen of that country. Very similar to Mexico, where you can't be armed unless you're a Mexican citizen. So it is very, very different. You have to think differently.
So do you find that perhaps people will travel from one country to another, perhaps as a security agent, unaware that they might have all the licenses in America or Canada, but they come over to the UK or they go to Spain on holiday or Greece around the islands? Does that sort of thing happen?
Happens a lot. We have a lot of American clients that come over and they bring their own EP team with them, and we have to explain to them that it's illegal for you to work in the UK because you're not licensed. So what tends to happen is, like at Optimal Risk, we get requests from American clients. Can we provide some security, some executive protection agents, do the advance work and to be there? And their guys can still be there, but not in an outstanding, sort of EP manner. Of course, they're still there with their client, but we're there to legally make that right. And it's the same with driving.
Yeah, driving definitely. In the UK, you need to be licensed and insured because you're getting paid to drive principals around and their security team. You need to be licensed and insured for hire and reward. That's the term, hire and reward. If you haven't, it doesn't matter if you've got your public liability, your employer's liability, your kidnap and ransom insurance and all the rest of it that goes with the industry. If you haven't got the basic hire and reward insurance for your vehicle, if something goes wrong, then it's reputational damage, it's injury possibly to the principal that you're traveling, where it's a standalone, you've got to pay for their medical care.
And of course, the other thing is that when people, come over to Europe, even us, when we go to Europe, we need local knowledge, so we need local drivers. And I know we come to you a lot for fully trained drivers in different countries globally, because that is really important. Yeah,
you can't, when you're doing this job, especially security driving, you can't rely on sat-nav, Waze, Google Maps. You need the local knowledge to know exactly where you're going, and if the A route is busy, we'll duck and do the B route. You can't get your places of safety and your ER room or your accident and emergency department in a hospital from a Google map if you're driving because something's gone wrong.
Yep, and that's why we always have to have local drivers wherever we are in in the world, because they do have that local knowledge. And of course, if we go and do an advanced recce, we always want to do it with the drivers that are going to be.
Absolutely. Because if the EP knows where they're going, but the drivers don't know where the drop zone is, the pickup zone is, where's the emergency exit if the front door's blocked. If the driver doesn't know because he's not been part of the advance, then everybody falls down on that job. It's not only the agent, it's the principal that's been put at risk, and we all know that the vulnerability for a principal is in and around the vehicle or coming out of an office or a hotel. So it's vitally important that drivers are part of that advanced team. Absolutely.
And do you agree with me about driver hours? Because I'm really particular about how many hours they're allowed to drive. We know some principals want to be out for 15, 16 hours. To me, the drivers, he's gone above and beyond and shouldn't be doing that. Do you agree with that?
Oh yeah, I do agree with that. I mean, you'll have some jobs where, and we always say, with secure ground transportation, safety is our priority, and the safety of the package that we are carried in the back seat, whether it be a child or an adult, they are the priority. You can't drive tired because you are concentrating 100%. So we will put people up in hotels very close to the principal, because the most important thing for them when they're not working is rest. And I don't want them driving an hour home and coming in 2 hours before they're needed to avoid traffic in London or Paris or Rome. So driving hours are important.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I always like the drivers to be put up at a nearby hotel. Also for emergencies, no matter where you are in the world, if at 3 o'clock in the morning you have to evacuate the hotel, then your driver's got to be within 5 or 10 minutes
Absolutely.
of that venue.
Yeah, absolutely.